Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, we're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally as important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else. Not in the media and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Thank you for joining us on another edition of Illinois Rising. I'm Dan Proft. You can catch me Monday through Friday on AM 560 Chicago's Morning Answer, 5 to 9 a.m. with Amy Jacobson. Joining me on this edition is Pat Hughes. He's co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project. And Pat, property tax issues, or property taxes, I should say, is the issue. I think that frames the 2018 election in terms of Illinois becoming what is more and more known as a home equity desert. The property taxes, the highest in the nation in Illinois, eviscerating people's home equity, decimating the return on the largest investment most people are going to make in their lives. And nowhere is this more pronounced than on our borders, where people are looking not so far from where they live right now on the Illinois side to the Wisconsin side or the Iowa side or the Indiana side or the Missouri side or the Kentucky side, Michigan, and saying, wow, I can do a lot better for the same amount or less just across the border. We've done a number of these regional analyses in the papers that I started, including in Lake County Gazette. This perhaps is one of the better examples. Lake County Gazette, an analysis of all the Lake County communities that we did. But a particular anecdote that I think illustrates this point on Cross Lake. Cross Lake is 89 acres in size. It's right on the Illinois-Wisconsin border. And the story of a home on Cross Lake in Trevor, Wisconsin versus a home in Antioch on the Illinois side. In Trevor, Wisconsin, a 1,368 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath home sold in the fall of 2015 for $255,000. 7 docks or a 3-minute walk south across the state line, a 2,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 3-bath home in Antioch sold last spring for $225,000. So in Antioch, 1,000 more square feet, 1 more bedroom, 1 more bath sold for $30,000 less. And what's the answer? You're a real estate developer. You know what the answer is.
I do, Dan, and it's interesting. Our next guest is going to comment on this, right? So there's the circumstance of the homeowner, and then there's the sort of job creation, economic boom that comes from real estate development and home building. And if you're a home builder and you're building in Illinois and you've got to pay these high property taxes and you're regulated to death and you've got enormous fees and all sorts of sort of negative implications to build here, and you can go across the border where you don't have those problems and you can sell the same house but for more money, you're going to do that. And the reality of it is it's not just an individual circumstance with people's own home. It's the loss of the business opportunity and the economic growth that comes from construction, which is a 7 multiple, Dan, on jobs, on growth, and everything else.
And this anecdote, to just close the loop, the Wisconsin home that's smaller but sold for $30,000 more, the $3,200 a year property tax bill, which is half of what the owner of the Antioch home, paying $6,200 per year, is paying in property taxes. And people have to understand property taxes. Your property tax goes up by an increment, $1,000, let's say, in a particular year, which is not unusual in Illinois, even for a median priced home. Well, that's not just $1,000 out of pocket for that year. It's what it does to home equity. That's, minus $15,000 in home value.
Correct, because that's less than you can afford in terms of house, in terms of what you can buy, in terms of what you can leverage with a mortgage or anything else.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by another practitioner in the space, in addition to Pat. And this gentleman is Jim Work. He's the co-owner and co-founder of Silverthorne Home Builders, which builds homes out in the Sycamore area and surrounding communities. And we've got another border war example to discuss with Jim. Jim, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Dan.
So, my understanding is you've kind of got an eye towards Iowa, and give us just kind of your perspective on building homes in the northwest suburban part of Illinois as compared to what the opportunities present in Iowa or other neighboring states?
Yeah, well, we've been building. I worked for a number of companies out of college, ended up in the DeKalb-Sycamore area after college, and things have progressively gotten worse, and it's, the economy, regulation. But if you look at, the country as a whole, Illinois really hasn't recovered in the housing aspect of things, and that's a big driver of a lot of jobs and a lot of different industries. But, just the regulation alone is a big part of it. And, when you have low sales and low home prices and then all this regulation on top of it, it just makes it really frustrating, to be honest. And you go out to Iowa and, I have my wife is from Iowa, and you think to yourself, cornfields and tractors probably, especially if you grew up in the Chicagoland area. But if you go out to the Quad Cities, and I know that Illinois policy has done some articles on this, but the Quad Cities, you jump over the river and it's a world of difference. I mean, they're building 300, 400 homes a year, and the Illinois side's building 2. So, and the regulation, it's just easier to work with all the people there. I mean, the government entities there that inspect and monitor stormwater and building and development regulations, they have a job to do. It's not like there's no rules, but they really are a lot easier to work with. They're a little more practical. It's just Illinois, the whole environment as a whole it's just not adding up.
So Jim, I feel your pain, because I've been in the same business for since 2000, and back in 2006 and 2007, before the crash, it was good for everybody here in Illinois and otherwise. But what I feel happened after that point was that the local governments, and then the state generally, they wanted to use developers, home builders, as a bank, right? To build, giant municipal circumstances like a police station or a fire station, or they want to get new police cars. And before long, you build a home and you'd be paying $35,000 in fees on top of your property taxes, on top of all the regulatory burden of what you have to accomplish and the costs that go along with that. And it just isn't sustainable. And I own a lot of real estate with partners out in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and we are seeing it be so much slower. What specifically does Iowa do that Illinois doesn't do? What regulations aren't there? What ease of work is there for you to allow?
I mean, I can give you a number of examples, but 2 big ones: environmental, stormwater protection, and like you just said, fees. So here in Sycamore, our school district charges a transfer tax, which we all, the real estate community and builders and real estate agents, jokingly call the Welcome to Sycamore tax. Anybody that buys a home in Sycamore that is not living in Sycamore pays the Welcome to Sycamore tax. It's about $5 per thousand, I think, off the top of my head. So $1,500, $2,000 a house. That money all goes to the schools. We also pay a hefty impact fee. We pay impact fees to the parks, to schools. As you said, they got to keep the spending going. So, the total permit package for a roughly $300,000 house is $17,000. Transfer yourself over to Iowa, the house, that same $300,000 house, sells for $425,000 or $450,000. There are some other expenses, so it's not like we're just making an extra $150,000, but the permits are $2,600. So that frees up a lot of money to pay the actual guys that work on the house, that create jobs and, work hard for us every day. Stormwater protection out in Iowa, we have a project that is 6 blocks from the Mississippi River. And I like the outdoors. I'm not, anti-environment by any means. I don't want to see it ruined. But here in Illinois, the Illinois EPA and other agencies at the county level regulate this stuff so heavily that we spend more time dealing with that than we do building houses. And out there in Iowa, the Iowa DNR is responsible for it, and they have a bunch of guys inspecting this stuff, looking over plans that are just practical guys. They say, hey, we don't want that stuff going into the Mississippi River, obviously, but we don't need to have, 13,000 miles worth of silt fence, that black fence you see on the side of the tollways and things like that. So, just as one example, last year alone, we spent $73,000 on stormwater protection. In Iowa, over that same time period, we spent maybe $4,000. Same practical effect was accomplished. It's not like we're polluting or something in Iowa. But here in Illinois, because of all the regulations and rules and things they have, it just spirals out of control.
I mean, those numbers are jarring just in terms of order of magnitude. You're talking about the development fees, the impact fees that are 5 times, almost 6 times higher in Illinois versus Iowa, and then the stormwater. And as you say, it's not like one group of people cares about them on the Iowa side, doesn't care about the Mississippi River, and on the Illinois side, they care so much about the Mississippi River. It's just a completely different culture, it seems to me, and attitude that regulators, as well as, of course, local and state government, take with respect to your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the impact fees, too, I've argued this at the local level. There's, we're not Naperville by any means, but I've argued this at the local level with some of the local government types and some of the guys that are on the local homebuilders associations, and I'm working now with the state association as well. But these impact fees that they put out, they're so enamored. It's the analogy I always use is tripping over a $100 bill for $1, because they're so enamored with getting, let's say, $4,000, $5,000 for the school, that they totally negate the fact that once we, create a home, build a home, and move somebody into it, and they start paying taxes, tax bills out here in DeKalb County are pretty horrendous. People complain about taxes, but it's really, we don't have as much of a commercial base, so it's really, really horrible out here. Rockford is also really bad. But, of that tax bill, $6,000-$7,000 of it a year goes to the schools. And I created a spreadsheet a while back and said, look, guys, if we could just build a handful more houses a year, you could wipe out the impact fees.
Yeah, and you might have interest in,
and it's like,
in people
and
moving
the other
in.
thing is EAV growth will help you grow the entire base of the city, and rising tide will rise.
Yeah,
will help your budgetary issues, but they're so enamored with the impact fees. It's like it's the classic case. We'll take the cash up front. This is an indirect way to get money that we don't want to directly extract from homeowners, but it's reflected in the purchase prices that you just provided the comparison of. But people, that's indirect and it's buried, so people don't see it. They don't feel it the same way as having to write a check, like you guys have to write a check. And as you say, so it's kind of being penny wise and pound foolish, but they want their money now, and it's easier to take it from you than it is over time from the homeowner. Yeah, absolutely.
And go ahead, Jim.
We kind of angered some people locally, because we've had customers where we flat out explained to them and showed them where the costs are. I said $16,000 for a permit earlier. That goes directly into a budget that we work to figure out our sales prices for all our various houses and models. In Iowa, it's $2,500. So this rhetoric that it's not being charged to the homeowner is a joke. It's a cost of doing business for us, and we can't get around it. So it's, it goes into the price of the home, and the homeowner is paying for it, so.
He is Jim Werk, co-owner, co-founder of Silverthorne Home Builders, builds homes out of Sycamore and surrounding communities out there Northwest. Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with the business, whether on this side or the Iowa side.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Take care.